Okay, we have so many exciting wide receivers to talk about that I honestly want to keep this intro as short as possible. I'm also going to get you some extra tight ends at the very end in case you're one of these sorry souls that started Irv Smith Jr., Cole Kmet, David Njoku. Obviously, it's been gross out there. But before we get into it, go down there, drop a like on the video, subscribe to the channel. Hopefully, by the time you're watching this, we've hit 100,000 subscribers. If not, we're about to. And because of all the support y'all have showed as of late, we're going down there. We're answering as many questions as possible in the comment section. At least the first 200 comments I'm going to answer, and possibly a little bit more than that. So ask your question down there in the comments. And one last thing, this is brought to you by Underdog Fantasy. Of course, Underdog Fantasy, you have a player props that you can go check out every single week. They have drafts you can get in every single week as well. And when you go and use promo code FLOCK on Underdog, they're going to match your first deposit dollar for dollar to 100. We'll get our 2022 fantasy football rankings. We'll get our 2022 fantasy football draft guide. But thank you again. I appreciate you. Let's dive right into this video where we have Joshua Palmer sitting at the top spot here. And I can already hear you in the comment section going, okay, well, Mason, Keenan Allen went down in the second quarter and Joshua Palmer only had 4 targets. Yes, that is true. Joshua Palmer only had 4 targets in this game with Keenan Allen going down in the second quarter. But you know who also only had 4 targets? Mike Williams. Like, this ball was spread out across everyone in this Los Angeles Chargers offense. So it's very deceiving if we're just going to look at the overall targets. It's a 1-week sample. What I want to look at is the underlying usage that we had for these players, where if we're going to look at the snaps played. Well, yeah, DeAndre Carter saw the same amount of targets as Joshua Palmer. Here, you are looking at DeAndre Carter with 25 snaps played compared to Joshua Palmer at 51. So Joshua Palmer clearly is that guy stepping up in that wide receiver 2 role. We saw Joshua Palmer, in the absence of Mike Williams last year, actually step up and be a wide receiver that gave you a usable week. We know that Justin Herbert is an elite level quarterback. We know this offense should put up a lot of points. At the same time, they're going up against Patrick Mahomes and the Kansas City Chiefs on Thursday. So if Keenan Allen misses time, which right now we don't exactly know the extent of this hamstring injury, I think Palmer could be an intriguing start if you're trying to chase some touchdown upside in a deeper format. Let's go over to our next wide receiver, someone that has before. I'm going to surprise you here. He's had 1,000 total yards before in his age 24-year-old season. Curtis Samuel coming out and looking like the wide receiver 1 for Washington. Of course, we're not ranking him as the wide receiver 1. It's still Terry McLaurin. But you have Curtis Samuel with 10 targets this week, 4 carries. We know that this is a player that, based on his usage at Carolina with Ron Rivera, that he is a jack of all trades. The one issue with Curtis Samuel, at least what we've historically had, is this is a player that has dealt with soft tissue injuries. That's why we didn't see him in Washington last year. Let me go ahead and let me pull this up real quick as we talk through this. But Curtis Samuel is also a wide receiver that at the same time has a very nice contract there in Washington. That's what got him away from the Carolina Panthers. Obviously, this doesn't look like Christian Kirk. It doesn't look like post-inflation contracts. But here, we signed this back in 2021 where you had $23 million guaranteed, $34.5 million for Curtis Samuel here. I think you'll be excited about the team investment. The fact this is a player that had double-digit targets this week. Carson Wentz looked okay. Now, of course, it was a fine matchup against Jacksonville, but it's not like Curtis Samuel's coming out of nowhere here. Curtis Samuel has been a very good wide receiver in years past. But now, speaking of a wide receiver that has never been a good receiver at the NFL level, because he just got here, Garrett Wilson, someone that I am rooting for. I am rooting for Garrett Wilson big time because you were getting a massive discount on him. There was a month stretch of all those drafts we did on Underdog where we were getting Garrett Wilson behind Jalen Tolbert. And this is a wide receiver that was an elite level prospect. We go back and look at what he did in 2020 at Ohio State. This is one of the most impressive wide receiver seasons of all time. You have Garrett Wilson with 723 receiving yards, Chris Olave 729, Jameson Williams 154, Jackson Smith-Njigba, he's going to be the wide receiver 1 in the 2023 draft class, 49. Now, of course, he was a true freshman, but Garrett Wilson was a true sophomore. Chris Olave was a junior, and Garrett Wilson coming out here dominating and having that wide receiver 1B role next to Chris Olave as a wide receiver 1A when Olave was older than him in this kind of offense is elite. Now, if we're mapping out the rest of this, he declares early for the NFL draft. He gets drafted inside the top 10 draft picks. Garrett Wilson checks every single box that you look for. But at the same time, hard to know exactly what we're going to get with the rookie early on. Very nasty New York Jets offense. Like y'all know, I was trying to stay away from Elijah Moore. Everybody was so excited about this matchup against the Baltimore Ravens, but we were like, no, it's Joe Flacco. We are going to stay away from the Jets where we can. But Garrett Wilson came out week 1, his rookie season, with the elite prospect profile. Only 41 snaps compared to Elijah Moore at 75. However, Garrett Wilson had more targets. Let me repeat this. Garrett Wilson, 41 snaps, Corey Davis, 57, Elijah Moore, 75. And Garrett Wilson was right at the very top here, ahead of Elijah Moore in targets this game. I think that you have to be so excited about the long-term upside. Now, of course, you're not picking up Garrett Wilson to play in week 2, to play in week 3, but this is a wide receiver that maybe can come on during that bye week hell where we are looking for starts in weeks 6, 7, 8, all the way through week 12. And on top of it, give you the elite level ceiling for the second half of the season, specifically for the fantasy football playoffs. I'm just so impressed that we got this from him week 1. But now let's go over to someone that's very similar to Curtis Samuel, and that we've seen him be productive at the NFL level before, was disappointing last year. Let's look at Robby Anderson here. I mean, with Robby Anderson, back in 2020, in a very bad Carolina Panthers offense, he had over 1,000 receiving yards, almost 1,100 receiving yards. He tied with DJ Moore for 53 snaps. I mean, here you just have Robby Anderson and DJ Moore playing every single snap in this offense. Really only 2 wide receiver sets. Now, no, we did not get a lot of volume for Christian McCaffrey, and I think that changes going forward. I think with CMC, they look to get him more involved in week 2, and that possibly brings down the target share ever so slightly for Robby Anderson. I'm worried about the overall offense being capped with the potential passing volume that we have, but Cleveland has a good defense. We knew that this was going to be a low-scoring game in general, with the Cleveland Browns looking to run the ball over and over and over again and really just drain this play clock. Now, if we're looking at the final stat line for Robby Anderson, though, 5 receptions, 102 receiving yards, and the receiving touchdown. Now, obviously, this was primarily off one big play, but that's kind of what you're expecting with Robby Anderson. I think he's worth the roster spot. I mean, right now he's only rostered in 10% of Yahoo leagues. Now, going over to a wide receiver, I was surprised to see rostered in 40% of Yahoo leagues. DJ Chark here is also another receiver that I think we should go ahead and pick up. I mean, he had 8 targets here this week, but he turned those 8 targets into 4 receptions, 52 receiving yards, and the receiving touchdown for the Detroit Lions. What we really like to see is the fact that they really didn't use another receiver here. It was Amon-Ra St. Brown, DJ Chark, TJ Hawkinson, DeAndre Swift. A third wide receiver's not in the rotation. I mean, maybe you look at the snaps with Josh Reynolds and say, oh, Mason, you clown. He is. He's out there playing just as much as Chark. But in reality, with the targets, I mean, Jared Goff not looking in the direction of Josh Reynolds. We look at the contract with DJ Chark. This does make a lot of sense. Now, it's going to be like the exact opposite play, however, if we're going to go through if we're to compare DJ Chark to someone like Garrett Wilson, where you're picking up Garrett Wilson, expecting his role to expand and him to get more and more exciting as the season goes on. With DJ Chark here, instead, this is a wide receiver that you're more so just looking at, hell, can we start him this week? Can we start him next week? Can we start him the week after that? Because long term, you will get Jameson Williams back from the torn ACL. And when Jameson Williams is back in, he will be playing over DJ Chark. So it's really going to come down to, do you need a receiver today or do you need a receiver a month from now? If you need a receiver a month from now, we're probably going to go ahead. We're probably going to pick up Garrett Wilson. If you need a receiver today, DJ Chark looks good with no Jameson Williams in this offense. But also remember, I mean, I guess we have a common trend here with a lot of these waiver wire pickups. These are veterans that have been productive before. I mean, DJ Chark back, I believe it was 2020, had that very impressive season. Maybe it was 2019. Robby Anderson in 2020, and then as well with Curtis Samuel in 2019. But let's go over to another receiver that I really want to get in deeper formats, Donovan Peoples-Jones. Now, I'm not excited to start any receiver for the Cleveland Browns, but we at least have to bring up the fact that Donovan Peoples-Jones drew 11 targets this week. He had 11 targets, played the same amount of snaps as Amari Cooper. I don't want to say that he's potentially the wide receiver one here. Obviously, that would be a massive overreaction to week one. Like y'all know, I'm an Amari guy. But it's not like Donovan Peoples-Jones has no talent. Donovan Peoples-Jones was the #1 high school recruit in that 2017 class, goes to Michigan. There's no quarterback at Michigan. I mean, he doesn't have the production you'd like to see. He does struggle there. Goes to the NFL Combine, checks every single box you'd want to see as an elite level athlete, flashes early on in his career. Maybe this would be right in line with like a year 3 breakout for Donovan Peoples-Jones. As we said, the #1 high school recruit back in that 2017 class. It's off the top of my head, maybe not overall, but definitely at the wide receiver position. So if we're looking at him drawing double-digit targets this week, even if we took an under on him with our player prop video, which obviously looks brutal, I think that he is a fine guy to pick up in deeper formats. Now, our next player, I am so excited to have a fantastic week 1, but at the same time, I'm not necessarily going through and telling you, you got to grab him. He's a must-add. Devin Duvernay. Of course, I have to bring up our guy, Devin Duvernay. He comes away, multiple receiving touchdowns, 4 receptions, 54 receiving yards. And if y'all don't know, I mean, I was drafting Devin Duvernay in the 18th round of a lot of best ball leagues. And I was simply saying, hell, he's the wide receiver 2 here for the Baltimore Ravens. I went to college with him. Hook 'em horns. I mean, obviously, I want to root for our guy. I used to see him at the Rec. But if we're going to be realistic here, while a lot of people may go and just chase the production you had with Devin Duvernay, chase the touchdowns, the man only played 29 snaps. He ran 18 routes. Like, you're running 18 routes in a very low volume passing offense. Even if I truly do want to see Devin Duvernay excel, I'm rooting for our guy. I know he's going to be everybody's hot waiver wire pickup. Let someone else in your league pick up Devin Duvernay. And it truly does pain me to say that. I know we're going to have some Longhorn fans out here giving me some hate for this. But now let's go down to our tight ends that I wanted to bring up in this video because I know everybody's hurting that tight end right now. We're going to have Tyler Higbee here. With Higbee, I mean, it should be a 50-50 chance if he's available in your league. But obviously, we saw Allen Robinson completely fail week 1 against the Buffalo Bills. On top of this with Higbee, we have seen that dominance at the end of the 2019 season. Tyler Higbee was like the tight end 1 in fantasy during that stretch, only behind Travis Kelce. Just getting 11 targets from Matthew Stafford week 1. This is someone that I think that you have to look to pick up. And that, hell, if we get those 2019 numbers over again, he's going to be this year's Dalton Schultz, if that happens. But he's definitely worth the raw spot regardless. And then someone I hated last year, but this year, I mean, hell, if you're getting him off the waiver wire or when he was completely free in drafts, sign me up. Robert Tonyan. I'm here with Robert Tonyan. Very much overdrafted last year because you were looking at him as a player that, hell, yeah, had, I mean, a spike in touchdowns. He had a touchdown rate close to 19%, which we knew was going to come back down to earth. And you had Davante Adams there. Davante Adams being that black hole, sucking up every single target. Well, now you have no Davante Adams. You have Robert Tonyan, the same exact player, the same exact quarterback, and at a much cheaper price tag. So I think we're going to go ahead. I think we are going to pick up Robert Tonyan where we can. Hell, if you were excited about him last season, you should be way, way, way more excited about him this year. And also, I think that if we're just comparing him to someone else, like we've said for so long now, I think he's the same guy as Dawson Knox. I think it's hard to project either player for a lot of target volume, but because the quarterbacks they're attached to, because the offenses they're playing in, hell, at the end of the day, these are guys that are going to have a lot of touchdown upside. But now, thank you. I appreciate you. I really hope you enjoyed this video. I really hope you got something from it. Of course, if you did, go down there, drop a like, subscribe to the channel. About to hit 100,000 subscribers. And that should be it. Hit the bell if you want to come out to our live streams. We live stream every single day. We're going to live stream every single day until the end of the season. But thank you again. I appreciate you. And I'll probably get to see you with the live stream tonight.